my name's Nathan, and I'm going to talk about Vitalism today, which is a social political movement that I co-founded with Adam Grease to address some of the biggest challenges in the longevity space, let's say. So so I'm co-founder at Vitalism. I'm also a co-founder at Longevity Biotech Fellowship with Mark, and I'm also a VC at Healthspun Capital, general partner, a fund that started 2 years ago. We've invested in 30 early stage longevity biotech companies. And okay, so fundamental premise here is that life is good and death is bad. Does anybody disagree? Just raise your hand. Okay, good. Okay, we're on the same page here. By extension, the goal really here, if you truly believe that life is good and death is bad, then we should try to live in great health for as long as possible and postpone aging and death as much as we can. And this is really the ultimate goal that we want at Vitalism, and I think a lot of people in this room share this ultimate goal. But the problem is 80% of us are probably going to die of aging. We're on track to die of aging, and it's not really a choice. You don't have any really say in the matter. We don't have any interventions today that can modify that sort of trajectory right now. And this is an emergency. I think Mark, had already presented this slide. You've probably seen this many times, but yeah, time is of the essence. We're on an exponential trend to increasing risk of death. And this is a huge problem. And the problem is a lot of people don't really think of it as an emergency. They think, oh, how can I work on aging through my career? How is this good for my career? Not really thinking about the real practical threat that this is posing to you, but also to your loved ones, right? People like your parents, your grandparents, your children even, we're all on this trajectory. Okay. So you've probably seen this slide as well. As of today, there are no interventions approved for aging or longevity, despite maybe 20 years of startups in this space working on aging and trying to develop medicines for aging. So of the people here in this room, I want to know, who here thinks that fighting aging and death is your #1 priority in life? Just raise your hand. Okay. Yeah, sure. Okay, great. Okay, so it's maybe 60, 70% of people in this audience, okay? Now, the problem with this is despite the fact that this is your #1 priority in life, society at large doesn't really agree with you on this premise and doesn't allocate the commensurate relative amounts of funding to fight aging and death. So you've probably seen this before, but 0.5% of the NIH budget in the United States is allocated to studying fundamental aging biology. So that's just a pittance. Even in the biotech private funding sphere, only about 3% of global biotech startup funding between 2017 and 2021 was allocated towards longevity, depending on how you also define longevity. So that's kind of more of an upper bound. And if you look at the entire pharma biotech ecosystem, in terms of even just valuation, the size of these markets or market capitalizations of these companies, longevity just occupies about a single-digit percent, maybe 1 to 3% of the entire pharma biotech sort of field. And people talk about doing something big, right? Trying to change this problem, trying to address this problem of lack of funding in this space. And they'll use big concepts like this word moonshot, right? So Matt Caverline wrote this op-ed piece in The Hill calling for a geroscience moonshot. And VCs love to use this word moonshot. They've kind of co-opted the term. But if you actually want to take that term literally, like a moonshot literally, then you need to think a lot bigger in terms of scale. It's not, a $2 million investment into a pre-seed company that's doing something a little bit more, ambitious or risky, right? Like a moonshot really means something like, 0.4% of GDP per year allocated, 400,000 people working on the Apollo program. It was hundreds of billions of dollars allocated to a project that didn't have, direct economic incentive. There wasn't like, a return or a time horizon here, okay? People weren't talking about exit strategies for the Apollo program. So this is the kind of scale that we're looking for. If this really is, your number one priority, you would want, humanity to fight as hard as possible as well. And that should be reflected in the way that resources are allocated. So moonshots require political significance, but how do you do that, right? So we started Vitalism Foundation, which is pushing forward this idea of vitalism, and it's basically a philosophy and movement for humanity to fight as hard as possible against aging and death. And we're looking to solve three key problems with vitalism. And one, it's fragmentation. Two, this idea that, death is fine or death apologetics. And then three, a lack of like an actual plausible strategy to get to political influence and significance. So I'll just go through this really quickly. But when we're talking about fragmentation, we already demonstrated that in this room, a lot of people believe life is good and death is bad, but there's never been like an actual name or way for people to coordinate around this idea, right? This deeply held moral belief. And we believe that, about 100,000 to 1 million people around the world have just naturally concluded that this is like their deeply held belief of their own all around the world, but they're just so distributed and so sparse and separated and unable to connect and coordinate that there's no way that they can actually achieve political significance on their own. So there's no way to coordinate because there's no name for this. I mean, all the other existing terms like anti-aging, longevity, geroscience, these all mean different things that have been co-opted by other interest groups. So we created something called the Vitalist Declaration, which is basically just 5 very simple points for people who basically believe in this philosophy and this deeply held moral belief to come around and say, okay, I believe this and we should do something about aging and coordinate around it. And okay, so another thing about death apologetics. So a lot of people who are influential in the quote unquote longevity space actually say death is fine, which is the antithesis of our moral position, right? So Peter Attia says, longevity doesn't mean living forever or even to age 120 or 150. That's in his book. Eric Verdin, CEO of the Buck, says the goal should be to live healthily until 95 in good health, and then, assumption there is to die, right? Which, okay, well, if you're so healthy at 95, then why would you just die all of a sudden? I mean, that begs the question. And then, okay, last thing. So the strategy to get political significance. So Vitalism Foundation basically has 3 sort of steps in their strategy. We already talked about unifying all the people who already believe this moral belief under a name that is different from longevity or anti-aging. And then number 2, what we need to do is spark sort of an ecosystem of different organizations and individuals who are building towards fighting aging and death, both politically, but also on the scientific, on the investment side, through all different vectors. And then last, and this is a little bit more unique, the goal for us is to coordinate all the people who believe this and try to reach 1% of global GDP to fight aging. And you would do this through essentially transforming states around the world, jurisdictions, to become something called longevity states. Basically a state that says fighting aging and death is the #1 priority of that state. So I'm gonna just fast forward because I know we're really short on time. So if you're interested in joining as an organization that believes this at a core belief, or if you're an individual where this this message resonates with you, I recommend that you come and join us. You can scan this code, check out our website, vitalism.io. You can join a community of other vitalists who are pushing forward to fight aging and death. And yeah, there's a bunch of others all around, many people that you know, even ARPA-H directors who are vitalists. And let's just fast forward. I just wanted to make a little shout out to a couple of different projects that we're spearheading for these sort of like longevity states and Vitalism Foundation sort of angle. So we're going to be doing a pop-up city next year in April, March in San Francisco, 2 months. It's going to be the healthiest, most productive 2 months of your life. And then we're also working on a way to coordinate capital and governance and decision-making of people who want to push forward this longevity state idea through something called the Vitalist Republic. It's a token-powered Vitalist network state. So if you're familiar with Balaji Srinivasan's work, the network state, then it's sort of, yeah, a type of strategy in that vein. And we're running out of time, so I'll just skip through this. And if you want to learn more about Vitalism or Vitalism Foundation and the work we're doing, then check out vitalism.io. You can scan here. You can join our email list or the pop-up city that's going to happen next year. Or you can also check out vitalistrepublic.com to get involved in the longevity network state. Okay, I'm done.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Nathan. Well, please let us know when exactly you have your date set. That would be great.
Yes.
And while we have the little numbers being distributed, we have time for questions. So I'll get to you.
Can you say a little bit more about what a pop-up city means and what that would?
Yes. Yeah, sorry. So, oh, it's enforced. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. So a pop-up city is just basically, you know, sort of an experimental co-living situation where a sort of community that's, you know, organized usually on the internet. They have some sort of common interest. They come together because they want to, yeah, work together, be in a community surrounded by other people who share the same values or working in the same sort of things. So example would be like Zuzalu. I don't know if you heard about this one. Okay, so there was an experimental pop-up city in Montenegro last year, organized by Vitalik Buterin, where a bunch of technologists in different veins, you know, in crypto, but also in longevity, came together in a resort in Montenegro, and they just lived there for two months and just like worked together, but also had, you know, great discussions and conferences and different events. So it's a way for people to come together and work together, collaborate in person instead of just like having these, you know, online only network communities, right? It's a way to manifest in physical space.
Yeah. Can I just super quick question? Super curious. So what about reproduction? So if you want to live forever, no? If you're part of this movement, you want to basically live forever, I guess. You are okay living forever, no? And having kids. So in fourth generation, we will be like 50 billion people on the Earth. So are going to move to another planet, or there is going to be a way to make the sustainability of the world without people dying?
Okay, so couple notes. So first, I didn't say anything about living forever. I just said living indefinitely. So that's totally different. You can still die from other things. I think, yeah, living indefinitely. That just means you have the choice. Like you just, you know, every day, no one's forcing you to die. Yeah, which is different. Yeah. Okay, so. Okay, so that's number one. But then number two, yes, this overpopulation argument. This is a common objection to longevity. And I would say, number one, we don't really have an overpopulation crisis today. In fact, we have the opposite, where there aren't enough people, right? So actually, South Korea just announced like a ministry for fertility because they just can't get enough people. People are just like dying, and then their population is shrinking, and it's like an emergency. And this is quickly becoming their number one priority, actually. So I don't think that's an issue. As people have longer lifespans, they'll have more choice and flexibility over when they want to actually reproduce. And generally speaking, the fertility, like the reproduction rate, will go down. I think Carl probably has a better, I don't know if you want to add to that as well.
One of the tables on my website is called Objections. And it has 3 counter-objections to every major, including
Like a whole section on lifespan with pages and pages on how to respond.
Share them in the WhatsApp, please.
and one pager points to lifespan on it.
Great. All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Nathan.
Okay,
Wonderful.
great. Thank you.